Start Over Strong, Life After a DUI, a podcast for people, not offenders. Brought to you by Smart Start, the nation's most trusted, judgment-free ignition interlock provider. Hello and welcome to today's show. I am Morgan Ryan. We have a very exciting episode today. Joining us as a guest who will absolutely inspire you. At just 22 years old, Phaedra Creed's life changed forever when she was hit by a drunk driver and left paralyzed. Instead of letting tragedy define her, Phaedra has turned her story into one of triumph. She has spoken to thousands, from high school students to NFL stadiums, and she really uses her humor and optimism to show that even in the darkest of times, hope can really shine through. We are so proud also to call her one of our own here at Smart Start. Welcome to the show, Miss Phaedra Creed.
Thank you, Morgan. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to chat with you today. I want to just get right in and start with your story. Can you take us back to that life-changing moment and tell viewers about that story?
My friends and I had actually went to a concert that night. No alcohol, no drugs. There were 2 cars. We had 7 people total that were going. When a drunk driver hit my friend's car first. But my friend was able to see them, so started to take the ditch. But he was going around a curve and down a hill, which I happened to be coming up. So that drunk driver actually crossed that center lane, hit Tony's car, and continued to keep driving until he hit me on what they considered a nearly head-on collision. Now, from that crash, I had many injuries, many broken bones, many internal injuries. But the most catastrophic thing that happened to me is due to the impact of the crash, we hit so hard that it actually ripped the aorta heart valve away from my heart. And at the age of 22, I was taken in for open heart surgery. During that surgery, I was bleeding to death on the operating table. So the physicians did the only thing they could do to actually save my life, and they shut off the blood supply to my lower extremities. By doing that, it left me to be a T6 paraplegic. So I have spent nearly 30 years of living my life from a seated position and living my life in a wheelchair.
Thank you for sharing the details of that story. My heart is racing just listening to you share it. And having known you, you come off as someone that's very enduring, lots of strength, lots of optimism, and you share your story with a lot of grit. I want to talk about your podcast. You do have a podcast with your son, and you do talk about your testimony. Your podcast is called Holy Grit. Yes. So talk to me a little bit more about that and how you've used your testimony to reach viewers.
I have absolutely enjoyed being able to have a podcast with my son. Not everyone can have that opportunity, but it has been so much fun. We were sitting around the table, and these are just conversations that we would have on a routine basis. When he would come over to visit, we would just be sitting, we would be talking. And one day Josh said, "Mom, why don't we put this on a podcast?" And I said, "Okay, let's do it." So we started our podcast and we called it Holy Grit because he's a police officer. And so being an officer, and he's also a musician, and he's in college, so he's still doing all of these kind of things, but he also has his own family and a wife and children. And so from doing that, and of course me, I might be a little bit of a diva. So by putting the 2 of us together to have this big outdoors kind of guy who he goes camping and he's hunting and he's fishing, and I tell him he spends a lot of money to live homeless, out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. And then you have me who doesn't appreciate anything except for concrete below my feet.
Yeah.
And I prefer to spend my outdoors adventures inside the mall. So,
sure. I understand. And I think the dynamic between the 2 of you really shines through in the podcast. It's very uplifting, and it's just the optimism that is really heartwarming for anybody to hear. And I love how you've used that platform and other platforms too. Talk to me about the people that you've spoken to. You've spoken around the world, and you've spoken to some pretty significant groups of folks. So tell us more about that.
I've had a lot of amazing opportunities in my career to be able to have the opportunities to be able to speak to some of my favorites as NFL teams.
Oh, I can imagine.
I happen to be a huge football fan myself.
Okay, who's your team of choice?
Well, I'm a Tennessee Titan fan all the way around.
I love that for you. Go Pats. Sorry. I'm not a bandwagon Brady fan, I promise you. We used to live in New England. So
I've actually spoken to the New England Patriots.
Oh, my goodness.
I have been there at and in Foxborough, and being able to go and speak and be at the stadium and have that opportunity to speak to the Pats. I've done that. I've spoke to Houston a couple of times too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So, and of course, my backyard, which is my Tennessee Titans. I love them. So that's been probably one of the greatest opportunities, and definitely one of my most fun days of the year. Yeah. I've spoke to the Titans for about the past 7 seasons or so now. Okay. I've been able to speak to the players and the coaches.
Family
to you. And they are so good to me. So good to me. And I think also a huge honor is having an opportunity to speak at military bases. Sure. And being able to share with men and women that are fighting for our country. Yes. So that's such a huge honor. And then students. I mean, I love students. I've spoken from elementary through high school to even college students. And I've absolutely loved that opportunity to help educate our young people on the realities of impaired driving.
Yeah. I think too, in terms of what you're doing today to save lives and share your testimony, how have you allowed this perspective, this incredibly positive attitude, outside of speaking engagements, how have you allowed that to come in and sort of reign supreme in your day-to-day at Smart Start? I mean, you're not even a little bit bitter, after all of the things. So I'm really interested about how you're using that to truly save lives for your mission.
Well, Morgan, I can't say that I'm not a little bit bitter. I mean, I was recently hit by a semi as a pedestrian.
Again.
And so my leg is a little swollen, so I'm a little bit bitter about the fact that my shoes don't look as cute as they normally do.
Oh, they're pretty fabulous. I think they're pretty fabulous.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
But I think that there was a time not long after my crash that I was starting to feel bitter, and I was angry and I was frustrated because to me, I was the only person in my small town, in my small community in Missouri, who was under the age of 65 and in a wheelchair. I just didn't have that opportunity. And I found myself becoming kind of frustrated and angry when I was at rehab and learning how to live a life in a wheelchair. I was surrounded with other people who had just became paralyzed as well, and learning that opportunity. But going out into the real world, I found myself just frustrated and angry. Mm. But one day, as I was laying in my bed, I was thinking to myself, I don't want to live that life. I want to be the person who's going to make someone laugh. I'm going to be the person who's going to smile. And it actually started as a conscious decision that I had to make in my mind. And then it worked its way into my heart.
Okay.
And that's how I chose to live my life. Life is entirely too short not to be smiling and not to be laughing and not to be able to focus on the good versus the negative.
Yeah. I mean, I have goosebumps, like just chatting through it. I was so excited to bring you on because I knew that I've been impacted by your positivity and that positive attitude in my own trials and tribulations. And I hope that viewers will go and listen to Holy Grit. And I hope they'll go and watch your, Tennessee interviews and speaking engagements. It sounds like it's an active choice that was made first, and then it became sort of a heart choice after that.
That's exactly right.
Right. And I think too, your journey, you've been so strategic and intentional in terms of who you've chosen to spend your time with in your career outside of your own personal entrepreneurship. One in particular is Mothers Against Drunk Driving. You were there for what was it?
21 years.
21 years. Mm-hmm. And I just love to see kind of from a high level all the things that you've accomplished. But talk to me a little bit more about MAD and what you did there and what that journey was like.
I started off with MAD because the offender that hit me, his BAC level, which was his presumed level of intoxication, was actually a 0.08. And in 1996, when I was hit, the legal limit at that point was 0.10. But he didn't get tested until almost 2.5 hours after the crash had occurred.
Okay.
So in my opinion, he would have been at least a .10 to be therefore charged with drinking and driving. Instead, the prosecutor in the courts at the time chose not to charge him with with a DUI. Instead, he was charged with second-degree assault, with alcohol being a contributing factor. And in my opinion, if he wouldn't have been impaired and he wouldn't have been driving, I wouldn't have been in a wheelchair.
Right.
So I actually became more frustrated with the criminal justice system than I ever did the man that hit me.
Okay.
So that's really when I started working with MAD. They were working on lowering that legal limit to .08. So I started working there, and I was pleased to say that I was actually with the governor whenever he signed .08 in Missouri into legal law.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I had the opportunity to be able to do that and be able to work with MAD. And then it just became my passion. I wanted to start working with other victims and specifically work a lot with injured victims because often we're forgotten. We hear the statistics of how many people are killed on the roadways, but we don't ever think about the statistics of the hundreds of thousands that are actually physically impaired and injured because of impaired driving. So working with victims was my next passion, and being able to do that.
Do you feel like when you had that huge success to see that limit lowered, did it feel at all like justice was sort of served for you?
I didn't feel as much as justice was served for me as much as I did that justice was going to be served for many others.
For others.
Because there was nothing, we don't have a time machine. We can't go back and we can't change our past. But what we can do is we can make a positive today and make a positive tomorrow. And being able to change and impact that it was the biggest turning point for me.
That's amazing. I know that Mothers Against Drunk Driving, I actually had Stacey Stewart on, the CEO of MAD. I'm a huge fangirl of her. I'd love to have her back on the show. If anybody's watching and hasn't watched that episode or listened to it, please do. Absolutely fascinating conversation because I'm positioning the market as what I would say pro-offender. And at Smart Start, we don't like the term offender.
Right.
We see the person, not the offense. We exist to bring down that stigma and eradicate it so that we can truly win hearts and minds and help re-educate those in society that end up in this situation with a DUI and have to have a car breathalyzer or an ignition interlock device. And so Stacey Stewart and I, we're having this conversation, and Mothers Against Drunk Drivers in the past has maybe been an organization that has come off with some stigma. You don't come off as someone who stigmatizes at all, even given your testimony. That's extremely powerful for me to experience. How did you get to that place where you realized I can be more successful and impactful by maybe affecting change and using my testimony with, again, that perspective and attitude without stigma? Or does stigma still exist, do you think?
Well, Morgan, I think in my opinion, what happened to me is I understand that the man that hit me that day, he didn't just get in his vehicle and say to himself, hey, I think I'm going to go driving and I'm going to go hit this really cute chick and put her in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I know that wasn't what his plan was that day. That wasn't an intention that he had intentionally done. But he made a choice, and his choice was because he drank and then chose to drive, was how the outcome actually occurred. So in my world, in the way that I kind of process things like that, is that knowing that he didn't intentionally cause it tells me that there has to be a better way to be able to make an opportunity change.
Yeah, prevention.
Yes,
prevention.
to be able to help prevent. And so why wouldn't we want to look at an ignition interlock? If the man would have had that in his vehicle that day, I wouldn't be paralyzed.
Correct.
But I started working with these victims and seeing victims that were often hit by impaired drivers who were driving illegally because they no longer had a valid license. Then they're driving without insurance. And these families need insurance to be able to cover these medical expenses or, sadly, funeral expenses. And so why wouldn't we want to have a world where if you've had the history of a DUI, let's learn from that and let's make a better tomorrow. And we do that by using the devices to be able to still be able to get the individual to his job or her job, and to be able to get their kids to soccer, and to be able to have a valid license, to be able to have valid insurance, and therefore keeping our highways and our communities that much safer.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
It does. Do you believe that ignition interlock devices work?
Oh, I know they do. I've seen them in action.
Yeah.
So I know that they can make that impact and be able to help change. I've worked with clients who have had the device on even for years, even after they were no longer court ordered to have them.
Oh, wow.
Because they've said to me face to face, he said, I don't trust myself. And so having this device means I know I'm not going to kill or injure someone else.
Now that's a level of accountability.
Absolutely.
That's incredible to hear. I've found that our community, we have a pretty robust community on Reddit. And I understand why. Reddit is a safe space and a micro community for those that end up in the situation. And it's quite accountable. And I like to see those types of conversations happening in the ether and that rhetoric where most of the comments are individuals that are taking accountability. And what does an ignition interlock exist to do? It exists to change the daily habits and behaviors of the individual. You touched on someone who is obviously electing to have an IID in their car beyond their stipulation. And I love that bravery and courage, because you can't have somebody in the vehicle with you without them knowing that you have an IID. Absolutely. There's rolling tests, and you obviously have to use it to start the vehicle. And in my opinion, anyone who's volunteering through a voluntary program to continue to use an IID, I mean, wow, that's incredible. We do have a robust voluntary program as well. And we have mobile devices as well that you can use and just hold in your hand. What are your thoughts on like our PAM device and if it works?
I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I had the opportunity this past week. I was working with Continuing Education at Sea, which is a educational program for people to get their CLEs and their training credits. They host them for attorneys. They host them for therapists as well, and to be able to work with these individuals. And I had the opportunity to be able to show them our PAM device and how it works for our mobile insights.
So what was their reaction?
They were shocked, number one, about the amount of alcohol that they could consume to be able to get to those higher levels. They were actually shocked about that.
Sure.
And I had the opportunity to ask them questions. Do you feel like you could drive right now? Even when they were at those lower levels of their BAC. And so I was asking them, do you feel like you would drive right now? And it was funny to me how many of them would say, I don't know that I would want to drive right now. And others would be, I think I'm fine. And then the more alcohol that they were consuming and the more that we were testing and letting them use the device, it's almost like you have that opportunity to become a little more brave, the more alcohol that you consume. And so therefore you can ask them, well, now how do you feel? And they were like, I don't know that I should be driving.
Right.
know?
Yes.
Or the more that they were consuming, then they were like, no, I feel pretty good again. I feel fine. But at this point, it's because your alcohol has affected even your judgment.
Your confidence is impacted and your judgment.
Absolutely. So being able to work with this program and to be able to have the opportunity to be able to show, I know how well the device works. I understand the program. And I think it's a huge opportunity to be able to use in like custody battles. If you are in a situation where maybe the other parent is not allowed to have any alcohol, then this is a great opportunity where they're not having to worry about being tested on a regular basis, but only when they have their children. So I think the device is just absolutely a win-win situation.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm really proud of our technology too, that it works.
Oh, it's the best.
I talk about our tech stack all the time. I'm very proud of it because I'm just protective of the people out there that are using these devices and, mothers in their vehicles with kids and having to start their car if it's cold in the winter and their vehicle's not being able to start. Our tech is incredible. And those are problems they're not going to have with Smart Start. So between our competitors and Smart Start and our really strong mission, how does Miss International or Miss Wheelchair International, who was formerly Miss USA Wheelchair as well, how did you choose Smart Start? What about our company and those other very large titles that you've held made sense for you in terms of maybe choosing someone else to work with?
I love the integrity of Smart Start. And I've had the opportunity to be able to work with any of the companies. And I chose Smart Start because of that integrity. I like to consider us as, we're kind of the Chick-fil-A of the South.
Oh my goodness. You are my favorite person.
Oh, we have amazing customer service and we have a great amount of staff. And we are going to try to help you through this journey. Yeah. And that's what I tell them all the time. I tell clients all the time, you're not alone on this journey. We are here to help you. Yeah. And we're going to be able to get you through this in the easiest and the smoothest way possible. You do your part. We're going to do our part. We're going to just make sure that you get through it.
Yes, that's amazing to hear. It's why I love our company too. It really is a differentiator for us in a market that can be predatory.
Mhm.
This is an assumptive product that you're told and mandated you have to have. There's not a lot of options out there. So for me, I'm again protective of our users, and I think that they deserve a product that works and a compassionate group of folks that's here on this journey with you. We want you to get it removed. We're not here to put you in long-term contracts or, get you signed up for a longer term than you need. We're here to celebrate that, violation-free removal with you. So, okay, let's talk real quick about the other titles you've had, which have obviously played a significant role in your success and your ability to go out and reach hearts and minds. In addition to Smart Start and all that you're doing here for us, I want to talk about, it was 2010 and it was Miss Wheelchair USA.
Yes.
So how did we get there and when were you crowned? And just talk to me about the inception of that.
I really had an amazing opportunity. And when I found out about the program, I wanted to become involved because number one, I think that we have a stigma for people with individuals with disabilities. We just kind of expect them to be sitting at home, maybe not be doing things. And let me tell you, I've never been the individual that you would just kind of imagine being as what we label here in the States as disabled. Yeah. So from that standpoint, there was one particular time that my friends and I went to a concert and I was driving my car, which happened to be a Mustang GT convertible.
Yes, girl.
And I had the top down and I had friends in the car. So my wheelchair was actually in the trunk of the car. Yeah. And we were going to this outdoor concert. And I remember getting to the parking and I asked the individual, I said, hey, I need handicap parking. Can you tell me where that is? And so the individual just kind of looks at me funny and points the direction. And so I start going that way. And as I'm going that way, I hear him on the radio that said, they said they're handicapped, but they're too cute to be handicapped.
Oh, good.
And I just remember thinking to myself, is that an insult or was that a compliment? Should I be insulted because we have a stigmatism toward people with disabilities?
We do.
Or should I be complimented because they said we were cute?
Right.
So it kind of made me think to myself, what can I do to be able to show, hey, you can still be beautiful and you can still be outgoing and you can have its disability and to be able to move forward. Yeah. And that's when I found the Miss Wheelchair USA program. And it was a phenomenal program to be able to help encourage and empower women with disabilities. And how could I not want to be part of that?
I know. I have goosebumps. Oh, I'm so empowered right now.
It's amazing. And these women are phenomenal.
I can imagine.
I'm happy that I won in 2010 because let me tell you, some of these latest contestants, I don't know that I could have. Being able to go and compete and meet these phenomenal women that are changing the world.
Yeah, they are. Well, and it led to Miss Wheelchair International.
It did. So in 2022, I was crowned Miss Wheelchair International.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And my biggest opportunity was to be able to spend time in Dubai.
Oh, what a dream.
It was
You are
phenomenal.
out here living a dream.
It was phenomenal. And I actually traveled to Dubai independently. I went completely by myself and had the time of my life. And I was educated beyond education to be able to see. I mean, Dubai is relatively much more of a newer country and they do have the financial freedom behind them to be able to make changes. But in Dubai, you're not called disabled. You're not called handicapped.
So what do you call?
They are called a person with determination.
A person
with determination.
With determination.
And that is on the side of their vans. It's on the side. That is their actual language that they use, not handicap, not disabled.
Which is such a derogatory term.
Absolutely. Why would the states not want to come up with something bigger and stronger?
Let's start a riot right now. This is a new thing. Person of
determination.
I am incredibly impacted by that.
So
what was that like for you, being a part of a community where their taxi cabs say person of determination?
I was completely shocked. I mean, even here in Dallas, to be able to get a cab, I would have to call hours, sometimes days, even weeks in advance to be able to get an accessible vehicle to pick me up from the airport or to be able to get me from one location to another location. And in Dubai, in less than 10 minutes, I had a cab right there waiting. I didn't have to call in advance, didn't have to schedule anything in advance. Everything was there and available to me. And even in my hometown of Nashville, I have to give at least like a 12-hour notice to be able to have an accessible vehicle. And why? Why do we have that when other countries, in London, they have black taxi cabs, and every taxi cab that's black has a ramp for you to be able to roll right on in. Why don't we have things like that in this country?
Yeah, I think looking in at Dubai, it's like it's a dream world.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the possibilities, because they do have the finances, and we can look and we can draw conclusions, and we can hopefully make change, which is what you're doing. You're using your testimony to make change. And you talked a lot about women too and empowerment. And I'm very passionate about mommy wine culture. I talk about it frequently on the news. I am devastated to hear that earlier this year, we saw statistics that show that now young women are, and Gen Z, they're binge drinking more now than young men, right? And it's like, if you've gone into Target lately, have you seen the alcohol aisle? It is very pink and sparkly.
It is.
These are intentional marketing tactics geared towards women, who, especially post-COVID, had to balance a lot more than their counterparts. And, women kind of do it all, and they struggle with mental health issues. They struggle with balancing it. They are overwhelmed. And what started is kind of a joke, right? Like, there could be wine in this coffee cup, kind of has taken a dangerous turn. And now we have mommy wine culture being accepted and promoted on social media. And what we've seen is that a lot of DUIs occur between the hours of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. at lunch hour, with women having a glass of wine with their friends. And then these women end up essentially getting a DUI. And these are working moms. These are moms who are overwhelmed. And so for anyone in that position, or anyone, anyone of that matter, not just women, but anyone who might be going through a hardship or a hard time or going through recovery, what advice would you give to that person?
I think number one, just being able to go and find the help that you need. And it doesn't necessarily mean going to counseling, doesn't necessarily mean going through therapy, but find a shoulder to be able to lean on. I think women, especially, that we need those relationships, and we need the individuals to be able to speak to and to be able to have conversations with. And to have a trusted confidant to be able to do that can make a huge impact, because you're not going to have to go through this journey alone. We work with Stream the Numbers, and we work well together. And so find your place. Find an outlet to be able to know that you're not going through this alone. Maybe it means going on social media and joining a Facebook group, or maybe it means to be able to actually start a support group, be in a support group and to be able to get assistance that way. Yeah. But I think that's the number one thing. Is so many times we feel as women that we have to do everything independently. Mm-hmm. We've had to prove ourselves in our economy, through our jobs, through working and raising our families over and over and over again. We've had to prove and fight for our right for independence. And I think that sometimes it is overwhelming because we just don't have that.
Yeah.
I mean, Morgan, think about it. Even in our world, we live mostly and we work mostly in a man's world and a man's culture. So being able to overcome that, to be able to have our voice, makes a huge impact in our daily life.
It does. And you have a very powerful voice.
Oh,
it has been
you.
The highlight of my career to speak to you.
Oh my goodness.
So far. Yes. I don't want to get emotional. Is there, Phaedra, is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers today before we close this episode?
I think that, again, we can't change our history. We can't change our past. But the one thing we can do is we can create a better future for today and a better future for tomorrow. We don't want anyone coming into our program of Smart Start with the history that they had in the past. Let's make a better future. Let's make a better tomorrow. And to be able to be coming out of this program as a changed individual, to be able to keep our communities, our highways, and our children safe.
Thank you so much. Well, with that, folks, incredible episode today. I am Morgan Ryan. If you or someone you know is in need of an IID, please visit www.smartstartinc.com. They can use coupon code STIGMA-FREE for their first 2 payments free. Until next time, Morgan Ryan, stay safe, drive smart.